The galaxy believed it understood power. For millions of years, every strong species had been recorded, measured, ranked, and feared. Ancient empires rose and fell, star systems burned, and entire races vanished, but everything followed patterns the galaxy had learned to recognize. There were conquerors who ruled with fleets, machines that fought without emotion, and beings of pure energy that bent physics itself. The galaxy thought it had seen everything. Humanity was never counted among them. Humans were listed as a minor species from a quiet yellow star. Their technology was considered average. Their territory was small. Their history was full of internal wars, mistakes, and slow progress. The Galactic Council had once debated whether humans would even survive their own future. Most members stopped caring. Humanity was filed away under a simple label, not a threat. That belief died on a silent day, far from any star. At the very edge of known space, where trade routes ended and sensors rarely looked, something appeared. It did not arrive with the flash of hyperspace or the ripple of a warp gate. There was no warning signal, no energy spike, no gravitational echo. One moment, the region was empty. The next moment, it was not. A ship hung in the void. It was alone. No fleet followed it. No escort drones circled it. No support vessels waited nearby. Just one ship, perfectly still, as if space itself had decided to hold its breath around it. At first, the automated sensors of nearby stations tried to identify it. They failed. The ship did not match any known design, alloy, or energy profile. Its shape was unfamiliar, smooth yet sharp, simple yet unsettling. It was not large by galactic standards, but something about it made observers uneasy, as if size no longer mattered. Long-range scanners activated across 3 systems. They returned nothing useful. The ship gave off no readable heat signature. Its power output could not be measured. Some sensors insisted the ship was not there at all, while visual confirmation showed it clearly. Weapons platforms attempted to lock on, but targeting systems froze, rebooted, and failed again. Guidance computers reported impossible errors, claiming the ship existed in several positions at once. Engineers were confused. Military officers were annoyed. Messages were sent to the nearest galactic monitoring station. Within minutes, alerts spread. Data streams reached the Galactic Council chambers, where representatives of dozens of species gathered in a ring of light and holograms. They watched the feeds with curiosity, not fear. An unknown ship was rare, but not alarming. New factions appeared often at the edge of space, usually weak, usually desperate. The first reactions were calm. Some council members leaned back, amused. Others placed quiet bets on how long the ship would last if it caused trouble. One elder species representative laughed openly. "One ship," it said. "That is not an invasion. That is a mistake." Another voice agreed. "Perhaps a lost explorer. Or a pirate trying to scare us." A third added, "Even if it is hostile, a single vessel cannot threaten the galaxy." The council voted to observe. No fleets were deployed. No emergency protocols were activated. A nearby military outpost was ordered to establish contact and demand identification. The outpost was old but powerful, armed with enough weapons to discourage most regional conflicts. Its commanders were confident, almost bored, as they prepared the transmission. The message they sent was formal and cold. Identify yourself. State your purpose. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The unknown ship did not respond. Minutes passed. The outpost sent the message again, this time adding a warning. Failure to comply would be considered hostile intent. Still, there was no reply. The ship did not move. It did not turn. It did not react in any visible way. It simply waited. Some officers felt uneasy. Silence in space was normal, but this silence felt deliberate. As if the ship was listening, not to words, but to intentions. Weapons crews were ordered to stand by. Targeting systems tried again to lock on. They failed again. A few junior technicians reported strange readings, claiming local spacetime values were slightly distorted near the ship. Their reports were ignored. Then, without warning, the ship transmitted a signal. It was not a greeting. It was not a threat. It was not even addressed to the outpost alone. The signal spread across open channels, bypassing encryption, overriding protocols, appearing on screens and audio systems across nearby space. The message was simple, clear, calm. This region has been marked, the signal said. Withdraw your forces. There was no emotion in the voice. No anger. No pride. Just certainty. The outpost commanders were shocked, then offended. No one spoke to the galaxy like that. Certainly not an unknown ship that refused identification. The message was replayed in the council chamber. Laughter echoed again, louder this time. A warning, a council member mocked. From what authority? Another replied, perhaps it wants attention. The council voted again. The decision was quick. The outpost was authorized to fire a limited demonstration shot. Not enough to destroy the ship, just enough to force a reaction. A reminder of who controlled this space. The weapons charged. Energy levels rose. The outpost's main cannon, a weapon designed to crack planetary shields, powered up. Officers watched the displays. The targeting system, still unable to lock precisely, was overridden manually. The shot was fired. The beam crossed the void in a flash of light. It never reached the ship. Space bent. The beam curved, stretched, and vanished, as if swallowed by nothing. Sensors spiked, then went dark. For half a second, reality itself seemed to hesitate. Then everything returned to normal, except the beam was gone, and the ship was untouched. Before the outpost could respond, the unknown ship moved. There was no visible acceleration. No engine flare. One moment it was distant, the next it was close. Too close. It positioned itself directly in front of the outpost, perfectly aligned with its core. Defensive systems screamed warnings. Weapons tried to fire again and failed. Power fluctuations rippled through the station. Communications went silent. The ship transmitted again. This was your final notice. Then it fired. There was no explosion. No bright flash. No shockwave. Observers in nearby systems saw nothing dramatic. The outpost did not break apart. It did not burn. It simply went dark. Every light turned off. Every signal stopped. Life support failed. Power cores shut down. All at once. No escape pods launched. No distress call was sent. Just silence. Scans confirmed it moments later. The outpost was dead. Every system disabled beyond recovery. No survivors. Not because of destruction, but because nothing inside could function anymore. The station had been turned into a hollow shell, floating quietly, harmless and useless. Panic spread. For the first time, the council chamber fell silent. Representatives stared at the data in disbelief. A fully armed galactic military outpost had been neutralized in seconds by a single unknown ship, without visible effort, without measurable energy output. This was not advanced technology. This was something else. Emergency meetings were called. Military alerts escalated. Fleets were placed on standby across multiple sectors. Analysts replayed the recordings again and again, searching for explanations. None were found. The ship's weapon left no residue. No radiation. No known signature. It was as if the laws of engagement had been rewritten. Then the question finally reached the center of every discussion. Who was responsible? Delayed data packets, long ignored, were re-examined. Old exploration records were pulled from archives. Reports of strange signals near human space, dismissed as sensor errors, were suddenly relevant. A pattern began to form, faint but undeniable. The ship's design elements, subtle and unfamiliar, shared something in common with one overlooked species. Humans. The idea was met with resistance at first. Humans. The same species that struggled to unite their own planet? The same species that fought wars with primitive weapons not long ago? It made no sense. And yet, the data did not lie. The ship's language structure, though translated cleanly, followed human logic patterns. Its warning was not poetic or ritualistic, like many galactic cultures. It was direct. Functional. Human. A chill spread through the council. If this ship was human, then humanity had changed. Quietly. Completely. And the galaxy had not noticed. As the unknown ship drifted back to its original position, once again still and silent, one truth became impossible to ignore. This was not a scout. This was not an explorer. This was not a lost vessel. This ship had come prepared. It had not appeared by accident. It had not acted in fear. It had not overreacted. It had followed a plan. After the outpost went silent, the galaxy did not celebrate. It froze. For the first time in recorded history, a fully armed galactic military installation had been neutralized without a battle, without warning, and without survivors. The silence it left behind was heavier than any explosion. Across nearby systems, civilian traffic stopped. Trade routes shut down. Captains stared at their instruments, afraid to speak, afraid to move. In the Galactic Council chamber, panic tried to hide behind authority. Representatives demanded explanations from analysts who had none to give. Military commanders argued loudly, their voices sharp with fear they refused to admit. Ancient species who had survived supernova wars and machine uprisings now felt something unfamiliar tightening around them. Uncertainty. The image of the darkened outpost played again and again in the center of the chamber. No debris. No heat. No life signs. Just a dead shell drifting in space like a warning carved into metal. Some council members called for caution. They argued that whatever controlled that ship was far beyond normal threats. They suggested communication, negotiation, patience. But those voices were drowned out by pride. The galaxy had ruled itself for millions of years through strength. To hesitate now would be to admit weakness. One council representative stood and spoke words that would later be remembered as the beginning of the war. If we allow one ship to challenge our authority, it said, then every border becomes meaningless. Fear will spread faster than rebellion. The vote was rushed. Emotions replaced logic. History was ignored. The decision passed with overwhelming support. The unknown ship was officially declared a hostile entity. Orders were sent across the galaxy. A response fleet was assembled near the edge of human-marked space. 300 warships from multiple species gathered, each one carrying weapons capable of destroying cities, moons, and worlds. The galaxy wanted a clear message delivered. Power would answer mystery. As the fleet formed up, the human ship remained still. It did not flee. It did not hide. It did not reinforce its position. It waited, silent and unmoving, like a witness rather than a target. Fleet commanders mocked it openly. One ship against 300, one officer said. This will be remembered as the shortest engagement in galactic history. As the fleet advanced, weapon systems charged. Space around the formation glowed with energy buildup. The commanders sent one final demand to the unknown ship, surrender or be destroyed. There was no reply. The first volley was fired. Hundreds of beams, missiles, and energy waves crossed the void at once. It was a beautiful and terrifying sight, a storm of destruction aimed at a single point. Observers expected the unknown ship to vanish in fire. It did not. The attacks slowed. Some curved away. Others simply stopped, as if time itself refused to let them pass. A few vanished entirely. The remaining weapons struck something unseen and dispersed harmlessly, like rain against an invisible wall. Before the fleet could react, systems across multiple ships began to fail. Weapons shut down mid-charge. Shields flickered and collapsed. Navigation controls froze. Panic spread through command decks as officers shouted orders that no longer mattered. The unknown ship moved again, passing through the fleet without resistance, untouched by every weapon aimed at it. Then the galaxy learned a new kind of fear. The human ship fired once. No sound. No flash. No visible weapon. 10 ships went dark instantly. Crews screamed as power died. Life support failed. Gravity vanished. Emergency systems did not respond. Ships drifted, dead and silent, filled with crews who never understood what had happened to them. The remaining fleet tried to retreat, but space itself seemed hostile. Jump drives failed. Escape vectors collapsed. The human ship transmitted again. You were warned. Those 3 words carried more weight than the combined firepower of the fleet. More ships went dark. Not destroyed. Disabled. stripped of purpose. The human ship did not chase fleeing vessels. It did not hunt survivors. It acted with cold control, as if following rules only it understood. When the engagement ended, more than half the fleet was gone. Not in pieces. Not as wreckage. Just silent, powerless metal drifting among the stars. The survivors limped back toward core space, carrying terror with them. Reports flooded the council. Military confidence shattered in real time. The truth was undeniable now. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a rogue captain. This was humanity. Old human records were pulled from deep archives. Patterns emerged that no one had noticed before. Humans had disappeared from galactic attention centuries ago. Their expansion had stopped suddenly. Their communications went quiet. The galaxy assumed they had stagnated. They had not. They had been preparing. The Council demanded answers and sent a direct message toward human space, demanding accountability, demanding surrender of the ship and its commander. This time, humanity replied. The response was short. We do not seek war. The chamber relaxed for half a breath. Then the second message arrived. But we will finish it. Fear settled deep into the hearts of every species listening. Humanity was not angry. Humanity was not desperate. Humanity sounded tired, calm, certain. And that was worse than rage. Because calm voices do not bluff. As the human ship returned to its silent watch position, one truth echoed across the galaxy. The Council had made a fatal mistake. They had treated a warning as an insult. They had answered restraint with force. Now the galaxy stood at the edge of a war it did not understand, against an enemy that did not need to prove its strength. Humanity had finally stepped forward. After the failed assault, the galaxy did not sleep. Fear moved faster than light through communication relays and emergency channels. Worlds that had never seen war activated defenses they had never tested. Civilian populations watched the stars with new eyes, no longer symbols of safety but of danger. The idea that one species could stand against the entire galaxy and remain calm shattered centuries of assumed balance. The human ship remained where it had always been. Silent. Still. Watching. It did not pursue the retreating fleet. It did not advance deeper into galactic territory. This restraint confused commanders more than violence ever could. Every military doctrine the galaxy knew was built on expansion after victory. Humanity did neither. In the Galactic Council chamber, panic turned into desperation. Analysts worked without rest, pulling human data from forgotten archives and restricted memory vaults. Records long considered irrelevant were opened again. Early human exploration logs, ignored trade reports, and outdated cultural studies were placed under intense review. What they found was not comfort. It was a pattern of quiet preparation hidden behind apparent weakness. Human history was brutal. Constant conflict. Near-extinction events. Environmental collapse. Nuclear wars narrowly avoided or survived. Time and again, humanity stood on the edge of annihilation and stepped back not through peace, but through adaptation. They did not rely on stable empires or ancient wisdom. They relied on survival. And survival had taught them one lesson above all others. Hope without strength was useless. Buried deep in classified human records was a doctrine few in the galaxy had ever imagined. It was not a law of conquest. It was not a declaration of dominance. It was something colder. Something practical. It was called the Silent Guard Doctrine. The doctrine was simple. Humanity would never strike first. Humanity would never rule openly. Humanity would never announce its true strength. But when a threat crossed a certain line, when extinction-level aggression appeared, humanity would respond with absolute force. Not to win territory. Not to inspire fear. But to end the threat completely. The ship near the edge of space was not a frontline battleship. It was a judge. The Council finally learned its name when the ship transmitted again, not as a warning, but as a statement. Vigil of Earth. The name echoed across translation systems, carrying meaning even beyond language. Vigil meant watch. Vigil meant patience. Vigil meant waiting through darkness until action became necessary. The revelation hit hard. This ship was not unique. It was not a prototype. It was one of many, built for a role the galaxy never imagined. Humanity had not built fleets for war. They had built sentinels for judgment. Emotions spread through the council chamber in waves. Fear, anger, disbelief, and finally something close to shame. Humanity had been judged as weak because it chose silence. That silence had never been surrender. It had been restraint. A senior analyst spoke quietly, voice shaking. If this ship is only a watcher, then where are the enforcers? No one answered. Because the answer was obvious. They were waiting. Across human space, systems long thought dormant began to show activity. Not fleets assembling, not armies marching, but networks waking up. Deep space relays activated. Ancient looking stations unfolded from stealth fields. Humanity had not expanded outward for centuries because it had expanded inward, building layers of defense and response unseen by anyone else. The emotional weight of that realization crushed many in the chamber. Humanity had lived under the same stars as the galaxy, listened to the same council declarations, and watched the same wars unfold. And through it all, they had decided the galaxy could not be trusted to police itself. They had decided to become the final answer. The Vigil of Earth sent one more message, not to threaten, but to explain. We observed your conflicts. We counted your dead. We measured your restraint. We intervened only when patterns matched extinction probability. Some council members protested, calling this interference. Others called it tyranny. But deep inside, many understood the truth. The galaxy had destroyed young species without consequence. It had allowed power to excuse cruelty. Humanity had simply kept score. Emotion spread beyond the council. News reached civilian worlds. Fear turned into reflection. Parents wondered what kind of galaxy their children would inherit. Some species remembered old wars they were not proud of. Others remembered votes they had supported without thought. Humanity had forced the galaxy to look in a mirror. The Vigil of Earth remained unmoved by reaction. It did not demand surrender. It did not request apology. It existed to fulfill its doctrine, not to be understood. The ship's presence alone reshaped political alignments. Old enemies paused their conflicts. Border skirmishes ended overnight. No one wanted to draw attention now. Yet beneath the fear, a deeper emotion took hold. Respect. Humanity had not arrived screaming threats. It had arrived with warnings. It had not destroyed worlds. It had disabled weapons. It had acted with precision and control, not rage. That restraint spoke louder than annihilation ever could. But restraint had limits. As analysts continued to study the doctrine, one final line stood out, a sentence that chilled every reader who saw it. If a threat escalates beyond containment, escalation will follow without limit. The galaxy now understood the truth. The ship they faced was not the beginning of war. It was the proof that war had been delayed for a very long time. Humanity had not been hiding because it was afraid. The galaxy could not accept what it had learned. Understanding humanity did not bring peace. It brought anger. Fear had wounded pride, and wounded pride demanded proof that the galaxy was still in control. Ancient empires that had ruled for millions of years refused to believe that one silent species could stand above them. To accept humanity's doctrine was to accept failure, and that was something the galaxy had never learned to do. So the galaxy chose force. Not one fleet. Not 300 ships. This time, the response was everything. From core worlds to distant borders, war beacons ignited. Star forges burned day and night as weapons were built in numbers never seen before. Old rival species stood side by side, not out of trust, but out of shared fear. The message was clear. If humanity wanted to test the galaxy, then the galaxy would answer as one. Across the void, thousands of warships assembled. Massive carriers, planet breakers, ancient relic weapons pulled from sealed vaults. Commanders spoke of total annihilation. This would not be a warning. This would be an ending. They would erase the human ship, then push forward until humanity learned its place. At the center of it all, the Vigil of Earth waited. It did not retreat. It did not call for reinforcements. It did not reposition for advantage. It remained exactly where it had first appeared, a single dark shape against a sea of approaching light. To many commanders, that stillness looked like arrogance. To a few, it looked like acceptance. The galaxy fired first. The opening attack was not aimed at the ship, but at space itself. A star-killer weapon activated, tearing energy from a nearby sun and compressing it into a focused wave of destruction. It was a weapon designed to remove systems from maps, to rewrite borders in a single moment. The beam crossed the void toward the vigil of Earth, carrying enough force to end civilizations. Observers held their breath. The beam struck. Space bent. Not shattered. Not exploded. It bent, folding inward like a curtain pulled aside. The energy vanished, absorbed into nothingness. Sensors screamed. Calculations failed. Physics returned errors where answers should have been. The vigil of Earth remained untouched, unchanged, as if the attack had never existed. Shock turned into panic. Commanders ordered continuous fire. Thousands of weapons unleashed everything they had. Beams, missiles, gravity weapons, reality disruptors. The void around the human ship became a storm of light and force. Yet none of it reached its target. Attacks curved away, slowed, or disappeared entirely. Some weapons turned back on their own fleets, twisting unpredictably through distorted space. The galaxy was not fighting a ship. It was fighting a rule. Then the vigil of Earth moved. It did not rush forward. It advanced slowly, deliberately, passing through the heart of the attacking armada. Ships tried to flee, but engines failed as the human vessel passed near them. Systems shut down without damage, without warning. Crews screamed as control vanished, as gravity failed, as power died. The human ship did not destroy them. It left them alive, helpless, drifting. This was not mercy. It was demonstration. Emotion spread through the fleets like fire. Fear collapsed into desperation. Discipline broke. Fleets scattered. Ancient commanders who had never known defeat shouted orders no one could follow. Thousands of ships became thousands of frightened crews facing something they could not fight. The vigil of Earth transmitted again. We will not retreat. Those words carried weight beyond threat. They carried finality. Somewhere in the chaos, a smaller faction launched a last weapon. A device banned for ages. A reality tear bomb. Its detonation tore a hole in space, a wound that consumed everything near it. Stars dimmed. Matter screamed as it was pulled apart. The vigil of Earth entered the tear. For a moment, even humanity disappeared. Hope surged through the attacking fleets. Cheers erupted. The impossible had finally broken. Then the tear collapsed. And the vigil of Earth emerged from the other side, intact. Silence fell. In that moment, something broke inside the galaxy. Not fleets. Not weapons. Belief. The belief that power alone decided survival. The belief that numbers guaranteed victory. The belief that the galaxy controlled its own fate. The human ship did not finish the fleets. It stopped. It turned. It returned to its original position, leaving thousands of disabled warships drifting in space. The message was clear. Humanity could have ended everything. It chose not to. That choice hurt more than defeat. Back in the council chamber, representatives watched the feeds in quiet horror. Some cried openly. Others sat frozen, staring at the image of a single ship that had just faced the combined might of the galaxy and remained untouched. The galaxy had struck back with everything it had. And it had failed. As the vigil of Earth went silent once more, one truth echoed across every world, every species, every mind. This was no longer a war to be won. After the galaxy's final assault failed, there was no celebration, no rallying cry, and no plan left to try. The stars were filled with silent warships, drifting like graves. Entire fleets waited for orders that would never come. Across thousands of worlds, citizens watched emergency broadcasts with hollow eyes, seeing for the first time that the galaxy was not protected by its ancient power. The vigil of Earth remained still, as it always had. But this time, it did not remain silent. A transmission spread across every open channel. Not forced. Not hacked. It arrived gently, requesting attention instead of taking it. The signal carried no distortion, no threat tone, no layered encryption. It was simple. Human. The image that appeared shocked everyone. There was no armored warlord. No glowing being. No monstrous conqueror. The face was human, calm and tired, framed by the quiet light of a command chamber. The captain sat alone, hands resting openly, eyes steady. There was no pride in that gaze. Only weight. He spoke slowly, each word clear. You wanted to know who stands behind this ship. The galaxy listened. I am Captain Elias Ward of Earth. I command the Vigil of Earth. And I speak not as a conqueror, but as a survivor. Those words cut deeper than any weapon. Survivors were rare among ruling powers. Survival implied loss. The captain continued. He did not raise his voice. He did not accuse. He explained. Humanity had not grown in peace. Their world had tried to kill them again and again. Disease, famine, climate collapse, nuclear fire. Humans learned early that comfort was temporary and safety was fragile. They learned that hope without preparation led to extinction. We watched our own history repeat itself, the captain said. Empires rise. Power grows. Mercy fades. Then someone weaker pays the price. His voice tightened, just for a moment. We decided that would not happen again. Not to us. Not to anyone, if we could stop it. The galaxy heard something unfamiliar. Not justification. Responsibility. The captain explained the doctrine again, but this time with emotion. The silent guard was born from fear of repeating human mistakes on a larger scale. Humanity did not trust itself with unchecked power. That was why it hid it. That was why it watched instead of ruled. We never wanted to be seen, he said. But you crossed a line we recognized too well. The captain looked directly into the camera. When you answered a warning with force, you proved the pattern was still alive. Emotion rippled through the galaxy. Some species remembered votes they had cast. Others remembered orders they had followed. The human was not pointing fingers, but every listener felt seen. The captain did not threaten the council. He mourned it. You could have stopped, he said softly. After the outpost. After the fleet. After the warning. You chose pride instead. For the first time, the galaxy realized this war was not born from hatred. It was born from disappointment. The captain continued, voice steady but heavy. We do not enjoy what we are capable of. Every system we disable is a reminder of our own past failures. Every crew left drifting is a life we chose not to take. That restraint was not mercy. It was pain. We are not here to rule your worlds, he said. We are here because someone must stand between power and cruelty. Silence filled the stars. Then came the line that changed everything. If this war continues, we will escalate. Not because we want to, but because we will not allow extinction-level behavior to go unanswered. The threat was clear, but it was not angry. It was exhausted. The captain ended the transmission with words that echoed long after the signal faded. Humanity did not step forward to be feared. We stepped forward because no one else would. The image vanished. Across the galaxy, something shifted. Fear remained, but it was no longer pure. It mixed with understanding. With regret. With the terrible realization that humanity was not the villain of this story. They were the consequence. The Vigil of Earth returned to silence. But the galaxy would never hear silence the same way again. Because now they knew what was watching them. The galaxy heard the human captain's words, but not everyone listened. Fear turned into denial, and denial turned into defiance. Among the great powers of the galaxy was a core world that had never lost a war. Its people believed strength meant survival and mercy meant weakness. To them, humanity's message was not wisdom. It was an insult. That world made a decision that would change history. Without council approval, without warning, its military launched a strike toward the outer edge of human space. It was not a full invasion. It was meant to be a message. A reminder that the galaxy still held the power to hurt. Dozens of warships crossed the border, weapons armed, commanders confident. They believed humanity would retreat. They believed the Vigil of Earth was alone. They were wrong. The moment the fleet crossed the boundary, human systems awakened. Not alarms. Not panic. Quiet signals passed through human space, precise and controlled. The silent guard had detected an extinction pattern escalation. The threshold had been crossed. The Vigil of Earth moved for the first time with clear intent. It did not rush. It did not rage. It aligned itself toward the attacking world and advanced. Across the galaxy, sensors tracked its path with growing dread. Analysts realized too late that this was no longer a warning action. This was enforcement. The attacking fleet never reached its target. As the Vigil of Earth passed through it, ships shut down one by one. Crews were left alive, drifting in the dark, watching helplessly as the human ship continued forward. No pursuit. No finishing blow. The message was not for them. It was for their home. The core world watched the human ship approach on every screen. Cities fell silent. Skies darkened as defensive grids activated. Planetary shields rose, layered and reinforced, the strongest ever built. Military leaders promised safety. They promised victory. The Vigil of Earth did not stop. It entered orbit and spoke once more. This action targets military capability only. The people did not understand what that meant until it began. Human weapons activated in ways no one could counter. Orbital defense platforms went dark in seconds. Weapon satellites lost power and drifted harmlessly away. Command bunkers buried deep beneath continents shut down as if unplugged. Communication networks collapsed. Military fleets docked in space fell silent, their crews alive but trapped. There were no explosions in the cities. No firestorms. No screaming crowds. Instead, something worse. Total helplessness. The world's military power, built over centuries, vanished in less than an hour. The planet was not destroyed. Its people were not harmed. But their ability to threaten anyone else was erased completely. Leaders begged. Generals raged. None of it mattered. The Vigil of Earth did not respond. Across the galaxy, the impact was immediate and emotional. Fear turned into shock. Shock turned into something heavy and cold. Respect. Humanity had shown restraint before. Now it showed resolve. The captain of the Vigil of Earth watched the world below, his expression unchanged but his voice heavy when he finally spoke to his crew. Mark the action complete. No further escalation. There was no celebration aboard the ship. No cheers. No pride. Only silence. Because this was not victory. It was proof. Proof that humanity could end worlds without destroying them. Proof that power did not need cruelty to be absolute. Proof that when humans finally acted, they acted with purpose, not anger. News spread fast. Species that had once mocked humanity now feared drawing its attention. Border wars ended overnight. Secret weapon programs were abandoned. Votes in the council changed tone. The galaxy had learned a lesson written not in blood, but in loss of power. The first world had fallen. Not in flames. Not in ruin. But in silence. As the Vigil of Earth returned to its watch position, one truth echoed through every system. Humanity had crossed from warning to action. After the first world fell, the galaxy did not breathe. It held its breath, waiting to see if the silence would break into something worse. No one celebrated the human victory, because no one believed it was over. The Vigil of Earth returned to its silent watch, but its stillness no longer felt calm. It felt like the pause before something much larger moved. In the council chamber, panic returned, stronger than before. Some representatives demanded immediate surrender. Others argued for total war, claiming that humanity had revealed too much to stop now. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Old alliances cracked under pressure. The council that once ruled the stars now looked small and lost. Then the sensors began to scream. Not from one direction. Not from one system. From everywhere. Across the galaxy, deep space detection arrays lit up with impossible readings. Points of distortion appeared far beyond known routes, far beyond standard travel limits. These were not jump signatures the galaxy recognized. They were not warp trails or gate activations. They were something new. Something quiet. Something controlled. Analysts froze as data poured in. Objects were arriving. One by one, massive shapes emerged from folded space, each appearing without warning, without energy spikes, without error. They did not arrive near the vigil of Earth. They arrived across strategic points of the galaxy, as if someone had already mapped every weakness, every critical node, every place where presence mattered more than numbers. 12 ships appeared. Only 12. At first, some commanders laughed in disbelief. 12 ships could not replace the fleets the galaxy still had. But that laughter died quickly as scans completed. Each ship was larger than the vigil of Earth. Each carried power readings that made instruments fail. Hulls were layered with unknown materials that refused analysis. Space bent subtly around them, as if they were not entirely inside reality. The truth hit like a physical blow. The vigil of Earth had been the smallest. The Council demanded identification. The response came instantly, transmitted by all 12 ships at once, their voices overlapping into one message. Humanity is present. Fear turned into something close to despair. These were not reinforcements rushing to battle. They were not forming attack formations. They simply arrived and stopped. Each ship took position and waited. No weapons charged. No threats were spoken. That was worse. Military commanders understood immediately. This was not escalation through numbers. This was escalation through certainty. Humanity did not need a fleet. It needed presence. These ships were not there to fight the galaxy. They were there to make fighting meaningless. On board the Vigil of Earth, Captain Ward watched the new arrivals with quiet respect. He did not smile. He did not relax. He knew what their appearance meant. The silent guard had shifted phases. Observation had ended. Containment had failed. Enforcement was now distributed. Across the galaxy, systems fell quiet as the human ship's presence disrupted everything. Not through attack, but through inevitability. Supply routes shut down. Weapon systems refused to initialize. Experimental superweapons lost power the moment they came online. Humanity was not blocking actions. It was denying possibilities. Civilians felt it too. Night skies changed. Stars seemed sharper, closer, watched. Parents held their children and told them stories about safety they no longer believed. Religious leaders searched for meaning. Historians realized they were witnessing the end of an age. The Council attempted one last address, begging for negotiation, for compromise, for time. The response came from the Vigil of Earth, calm and final. "This is not an occupation," the captain said. "This is a safeguard." The words carried emotional weight that no threat could match. Humanity had not come to rule. It had come because the galaxy could not stop itself. Some species felt relief. Others felt rage. Many felt shame. The 12 ships did not move closer. They did not fire. They simply existed, vast and patient, reminders written across the stars. Humanity had not unleashed its strength in anger. It had revealed it in restraint. And that restraint terrified the galaxy more than destruction ever could. Because now everyone understood the truth. If humanity ever decided to act without restraint, there would be nothing left to resist it. The Vigil of Earth remained at the edge of space, no longer alone. Its role was complete. The galaxy had been shown the Watchers. This was not the arrival of an army. It was the arrival of judgment. When the 12 human ships appeared, the galaxy expected destruction. But days passed, and nothing burned. No worlds fell. No fleets vanished. The silence returned, heavier than before, pressing on every mind. The question spread everywhere, whispered in council halls, military bunkers, and civilian homes alike. Why? Why had humanity revealed its power now? Why not earlier? Why not conquer, when it was clearly possible? The council demanded answers again, but this time their voices were not proud. They were tired, broken, afraid. They sent a formal request to humanity, not as rulers, but as equals begging for understanding. The response did not come from the 12 ships. It came from the Vigil of Earth. The human captain spoke once more, but this time he did not speak as a commander. He spoke as a witness. "You want to know why we chose to act," he said. "Then you need to see what we saw." What followed was not an attack. It was a record. Human data streams opened across the galaxy. Images, reports, and recordings poured into council archives and public channels. At first, no one understood what they were seeing. Then the truth became impossible to deny. Worlds burned. Not by humans. By the galaxy. Young species, newly discovered, were shown reaching for the stars with hope. Then came the fleets. Council-sanctioned containment actions. Quiet exterminations labeled as border corrections or security measures. Entire civilizations erased because they were inconvenient, unpredictable, or simply weak. The galaxy had called it order. Humanity called it murder. Emotion tore through every species watching. Some cried. Some screamed in denial. Others went silent, recognizing actions they had supported, or ignored, or benefited from. Votes cast long ago returned like ghosts. The captain's voice continued, heavy but controlled. "We found these records while we were still weak," he said. "While we were still learning how to survive ourselves." Humanity had seen the pattern early. Power rose. Fear followed. Mercy disappeared. The strong decided who deserved to exist. Humans recognized it because they had lived it on their own world. "We did not trust ourselves to be better," the captain admitted. "So we built rules stronger than emotion." The Silent Guard doctrine was not created to punish the galaxy. It was created to protect it from repeating humanity's worst mistakes on a larger scale. Humans had chosen to hide their strength until they could control it. Until they could use it without becoming monsters. "We waited," the captain said quietly. "We watched. We hoped you would change on your own." The pause that followed felt endless. "But you didn't." The words hit harder than any weapon. Humanity had not chosen war because it wanted power. It had chosen war because every peaceful option had failed. Warnings were ignored. Restraint was tested. Mercy was mistaken for weakness. Emotion spread through the galaxy like a slow collapse. Pride shattered. Old justifications fell apart. Species that had once called themselves protectors now saw the cost of their protection. The captain did not demand apologies. He did not ask for surrender. He said something worse. "We are not here to judge your past," he said. "We are here to prevent your future." That was when the galaxy truly understood the war it was in. This was not a war for territory. Not a war for resources. Not a war for dominance. It was a war against a pattern. The 12 ships remained silent as the truth settled in. They were not symbols of conquest. They were reminders. Humanity was not standing above the galaxy as a ruler. It was standing in front of it as a barrier. Some species felt relief, realizing someone had finally drawn a line. Others felt anger, resenting the mirror humanity held up to them. Many felt fear, knowing that from this moment on, there would be consequences. The captain ended the transmission with words that carried deep emotional weight. "We chose war," he said, "because peace without justice is just quiet violence." The signal ended. Across the galaxy, nothing moved. But everything had changed. Because now everyone knew the truth. Humanity had not entered the war to win. The truth had been revealed, but truth does not always bring acceptance. For some in the galaxy, it brought something far more dangerous. Desperation. Civilizations that had built their identity on power could not survive a future where they were watched, limited, and judged. To them, humanity was not a safeguard. It was a cage. And cages are meant to be broken. In secret, beyond the reach of council debates and public broadcasts, the remaining hardline powers gathered. Old enemies met as allies for the first time. Ancient weapon vaults were opened. Forbidden technologies, sealed after past disasters, were pulled back into the light. They did not plan to win a war. They planned to end it. If the galaxy could not overpower humanity, then it would tear reality itself apart and take humanity with it. The plan was simple and terrible. A final coordinated strike. Every remaining fleet. Every hidden weapon. A single moment of total force aimed at the human presence across the galaxy. Not to defeat the 12 ships, but to overload space itself, to collapse the structures humanity depended on. If existence burned, then at least no one would rule the ashes. As the preparations began, the human ships did not move. They watched. The Vigil of Earth detected the shift instantly. Energy patterns changed. Communication networks spiked. Probability models crossed the final threshold. This was no longer escalation. This was extinction-level intent. For the first time since the war began, humanity acted without delay. The 12 ships synchronized. Across the galaxy, time seemed to slow. Not truly, but enough that many felt it. Sensors lagged. Thought itself felt heavy. Humanity was not attacking fleets. It was taking control of the battlefield before the battle could exist. The last stand began anyway. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Beams brighter than stars. Missiles carrying unstable physics. Devices meant to break causality. The galaxy unleashed everything it had left, screaming into the void in one final act of defiance. None of it mattered. The human ships did not counterattack in the way the galaxy understood. They did not trade fire. They did not aim at ships. They reached deeper. Systems failed before weapons could complete their charge. Power sources shut down at the moment of ignition. Reality-breaking devices simply refused to activate, their equations collapsing into harmless noise. Humanity was not blocking attacks. It was denying the galaxy permission to commit suicide. As fleets lost control, panic erupted. Crews realized too late that this final stand was not heroic. It was pointless. Ships drifted, weapons inert, surrounded by human vessels that never fired a shot. The Vigil of Earth transmitted one final warning during the chaos. Stand down. Some listened. Most did not have a choice. One faction attempted to override the human suppression fields. A last weapon detonated partially, tearing open a wound in space. The tear began to grow, threatening to consume nearby systems. The human response was instant. 2 of the 12 ships moved for the first time. They entered the tear and sealed it from the inside. When they emerged, they were scarred. Hulls cracked. Systems damaged. For the first time, the galaxy saw proof that humanity could bleed. That sight broke something deep inside the remaining resistance. Human ships were not gods. They were guardians willing to be hurt to stop disaster. The last fleets powered down. The final weapons went silent. The galaxy's last stand ended not with victory or annihilation, but with surrender to reality. Silence returned, deeper than ever before. Across countless worlds, beings wept. Some for lost power. Some for avoided extinction. Many for the knowledge that their future would never again be free of consequence. The 12 ships held position. They did not advance. They did not punish the defeated. Humanity did not celebrate. Because this was not triumph. It was survival. The war was not yet over, but the galaxy's will to destroy itself had finally been broken. And in that quiet, fragile moment, the galaxy understood the final truth. Humanity had not stopped them because it was stronger. After the galaxy's last stand ended in silence, the dust of fear settled slowly across thousands of systems. Worlds that had once believed themselves untouchable now realized how fragile their power had been. Council halls sat empty for hours as leaders tried to comprehend what had happened. Entire fleets returned not in triumph but in shame. The galaxy had faced a species it could not destroy and survived only because humanity chose restraint over revenge. The lesson was clear. Power without responsibility was meaningless. Humanity had not come to rule the galaxy, yet by stepping forward, it had created an order stronger than any empire ever had. The Vigil of Earth returned to its position at the edge of human space, flanked now by the 12 great ships, guardians of balance, watchers of the galaxy. Humanity did not claim planets, fleets, or titles. It simply observed, quiet but unyielding, marking systems that teetered too close to self-destruction. New rules were established, broadcast across the galaxy not as law but as necessity. Species were reminded that unchecked aggression, greed, and cruelty would no longer go unanswered. Humanity's presence became the ultimate deterrent. The Council itself was dissolved, not through conquest, but because it had lost the authority to govern. A new governing principle emerged: each species would maintain its autonomy, but extinction-level threats would now face intervention, a calm but absolute authority, guided by human doctrine. Trade routes and borders were redefined with human oversight. Fleets once prepared for war were now repurposed for observation, defense, and containment of existential threats. Ancient rivalries softened, not by diplomacy, but by the quiet certainty that humanity was watching. Emotions ran deep across the galaxy. Fear, yes, but tempered by awe and relief. For the first time, beings realized that survival depended not just on power, but on restraint, judgment, and foresight. Across the vigil of Earth, Captain Ward and his crew observed silently, recording every signal, every pattern, every potential future threat. They did not celebrate, they did not boast. Their work was endless, their duty unyielding. They understood that peace was fragile, that civilization was often blind to its own mistakes, and that vigilance must never end. The galaxy had not been conquered, but it had been reshaped. Humanity did not command it, but it had taught it a new lesson, that true strength is not measured by domination, but by the restraint to know when to act, the courage to enforce justice without cruelty, and the patience to wait until action becomes necessary. Across countless worlds, the stars seemed quieter, as if watching themselves, aware now that a human presence could decide the fate of billions. And in that quiet, the galaxy learned to fear, respect, and, above all, remember, that humanity was not an enemy to be defeated, nor a ruler to be obeyed, but a line drawn across the cosmos that no species could cross without consequence, and that vigilance, not victory, had become the new order. Years passed, yet the galaxy did not forget the day the vigil of Earth appeared. The 12 great ships remained in place, silent, patient, unyielding. Humanity never demanded tribute, never claimed land, never interfered in the daily lives of other species. Yet their presence reshaped every corner of the stars. Governments operated with caution. Military expansion slowed. Borders were respected not out of law, but out of understanding that humanity watched, that restraint could turn into action without warning, and that no species could ever take its arrogance lightly again. Across countless worlds, parents told stories of the silent human fleet, teaching their children that power was not victory, that wisdom was not surrender, and that survival required responsibility beyond selfish ambition. Scholars wrote histories with new humility, acknowledging a species that had risen from hardship not to conquer, but to judge, guide, and contain. The galaxy learned that war could be prevented not through fleets or superweapons, but through presence, through the careful, patient enforcement of consequence. Humanity remained unseen in most regions, a ghost, a shadow, a promise that vigilance never slept. Yet when a crisis arose, a rogue fleet, a dangerous weapon, a civil war threatening extinction, the vigil of Earth acted. Ships appeared from nowhere, movements precise, targeted, measured. Entire conflicts ended before blood could be spilled. Civilizations survived where they had no right to hope. Humanity's actions carried emotional weight, not just fear. Those saved understood that the species acting was not merciful by choice, but by principle. Humanity never celebrated. Humanity never boasted. Each intervention was recorded, analyzed, and stored, not for glory, but to prepare for the next threat. The galaxy began to change. Old rivalries cooled. New cooperation grew, not because species trusted each other, but because they understood the cost of recklessness. Fear became respect, respect became caution, and caution became the foundation for a fragile peace. Captain Elias Ward remained aboard the Vigil of Earth, his crew silent and attentive. They had seen the galaxy at its worst, arrogant, destructive, blind to consequences, and they knew it could rise again. Humanity's work was endless. Each scan, each patrol, each intervention was a reminder that survival was not given. It was enforced. Across the cosmos, stories spread of the silent watchers, of a species that chose patience over rage, judgment over conquest, restraint over pride. And yet, everyone knew, the silence of humanity was not absence. It was a promise. A warning. A barrier between life and extinction. The galaxy could continue, could rebuild, could grow. But it would never be the same. Humanity had shown that true strength was quiet, unyielding, and eternal. The Vigil of Earth remained at the edge of space, watching, waiting, judging. And the stars, once symbols of freedom and chaos, now reflected a new truth, that vigilance alone could change the course of history, that humanity had stepped forward not to dominate, but to ensure the galaxy survived itself, and that even in silence, the presence of one species could rewrite the destiny of countless worlds forever.